General information. Traffic safety rules. Traffic laws that have been passed by the South Carolina General Assembly have but one basic reason for being on our law books. Each one ensures the safety of persons on or near street and highways. This handbook does not cover all these laws, but it does cover the important ones for you to know in order to drive safely and to guard the lives of persons who share the road with you. The state motor vehicle laws are not reproduced in their entirety, and the wording is not identical. Speed. The laws covering speed top the list of things you must know if you are a safe driver. The speed at which you are traveling affects almost everything else that can happen to you in a car. Speed, along with an error in judgment, mechanical failure of your car, or some traffic violation, is almost always present in fatal collisions. Carolina law sets absolute top speed limits at which you may travel on a given road, street, highway, or freeway. This does not mean that you have the right to travel at that top speed under any and all conditions. The law continues to say that no matter what the posted speed limit, you must never drive at a speed faster than is safe for conditions. Fog, rain, snow, ice, and other factors that may change the condition of the road or the distance you can see ahead of you are the sorts of things you must consider when determining a safe speed. Heavy traffic entering from a side road would also require slower speed. Speed limits. Drivers must comply with the posted speed limits throughout South Carolina. There can be no safe limits set for the entire length of any highway. Curbs, hills, intersections, and so forth make it necessary to slow down to a safe speed. Towns and cities have many more situations that require you to slow down, schools and pedestrian crosswalks, for example. The maximum unposted speed limit in an urban district or residential area is 30 miles per hour. The maximum unposted speed limit in rural areas is 55 miles per hour, except when a higher limit is allowed by federal law.
Stop at grade crossings. You must stop at a railroad crossing when directed by a flagman or stop sign, flashing red signals or other devices that warn you of a coming train. Sometimes flashing red signals and gates are present. It is against the law to go around lowered railroad gates at a crossing. Not all railroad crossings are equipped with such warning devices. Some railroad crossings have yield to sign to remind drivers to yield the right-of-way to any trains that are on the track. You must approach all crossings with extreme caution and cross only when you know that no train is coming from either direction. Standard railroad crossbucks are found at every railroad crossing. Approach all crossings with extreme caution. Check both directions before crossing. Stop school bus. You must stop for a stopped school bus with the flashing lights that is unloading or unloading passengers. This is required by law whether you are meeting the bus or traveling behind it under the following conditions. On any 2-lane highway, on any 4-lane or multi-lane highway, only when traveling behind a school bus, when passing a school bus that has red or amber signals flashing. Drivers are required to stop for a stopped school bus when driving on a 2-lane road. You must stop for a stopped school bus with flashing lights that is loading or unloading passengers. You do not have to stop 1. When the bus is in a passenger loading zone completely off the main travel lanes and when pedestrians are not allowed to cross the roadway. 2. A driver of a vehicle need not stop upon meeting a stopped school bus when traveling in the opposite direction on a multi-lane highway or multi-lane private road. A multi-lane highway or multi-lane private road is defined as a highway or private road that consists of 4 lanes, having at least 2 traffic lanes in each direction. You must always stop on any highway when you are behind the bus. When you have stopped, you must not proceed until the bus moves or the driver signals to you that the way is clear or the red lights are no longer flashing. When on a 4-lane or multi-lane highway, traffic behind a stopped bus is required to stop. Traffic on the other side of the highway does not have to stop, but should slow down and pass with caution. Parking and leaving a vehicle. Improperly parked vehicles cause collisions. Observe these practices in parking. 1. Never double park. It is both illegal and discourteous regardless of whether the vehicle is occupied or not. 2. Turn off the ignition and remove the keys from your vehicle when you park and leave it unattended. A good driver always sets the parking brake. 3. Follow all parking regulations. Usually you will find the regulations posted on city streets. Parking time limits vary, so check the time where you are parked. 4. Always park within 18 inches from the curb. Parking away from the curb can cause serious traffic problem. It is also illegal. 5. On a rural highway, make certain that your vehicle is completely off the travel portion of the highway. Before you leave your vehicle, always check for traffic behind. Many persons have been killed by opening their car door, getting out, then having an approaching vehicle pin them against the open door. When possible, get out on the curbside. Places you should not park. It is illegal for you to stop or park your vehicle at any of the following places, except to avoid collision or unless directed by law enforcement officer or traffic control device to do so. 1. On an interstate. In case of mechanical trouble or other emergency, stop on the right shoulder, entirely clear of moving traffic. 2. On a sidewalk. 3. In front of a driveway or near enough to hinder the driveway by use by others. 4. Within an intersection. 5. Within 15 feet of a fire hydrant. 6. On a pedestrian crosswalk. 7. Within 20 feet of a crosswalk at an intersection. 8. Within 30 feet of a signal light, stop sign, or flashing beacon on the side of the roadway. 9. Between a safety zone and the opposite curb. 10. Within 50 feet of a railroad crossing. 11. Within 20 feet of the driveway entrance to any fire station or within 75 feet of the curb section opposite a fire station entrance. 12. Alongside or opposite any street repair, construction area, or other obstruction where you would hinder traffic. 13. On any bridge, elevated roadway, or in any tunnel or underpass. 14. Along a curb if it is painted yellow or some other color as a no parking warning. 15. On a hill or curve or on the open highway unless there is a clear vision along the highway for a distance of 200 feet in each direction. 16. Where there is a no parking sign. 17. Within 500 feet of a fire vehicle stopped in answer to a fire alarm. Entering and starting a parked vehicle. Before entering your car, look around for any obstacles that might interfere with safe driving. Walk around your vehicle. Perhaps you will need to move a child's tricycle sitting behind your car. Perhaps a child is standing or playing near your vehicle. You would certainly want to be sure he is out of danger. When getting into your car, make certain the seat is adjusted properly for your comfort and safety. Sit directly behind the steering wheel and make certain that your feet are in a position to operate the foot controls. Adjust your mirrors. Always fasten your safety belt and shoulder harness if you have one. Make sure they are both firm and comfortable to you. The head restraint on newer cars is an important safety addition. It should be in a correct position so that in the event someone runs into your vehicle from the rear, your chances of a neck injury are cut down considerably. Good posture when driving not only makes you a better driver, but it also makes you less tired than bad posture. After starting your vehicle, look again to make sure the way is clear so that you can leave your parked position safely. Look back. Do not depend on a rear view mirror. Give the proper signal and back or drive cautiously into the stream of traffic. The faster you go. There is no true table that can be given in this book that will tell you exactly how long it will take you to stop your car or truck when you're traveling at a certain speed. Many elements enter into the distance it would take, including your own reaction, weather, and road conditions, the weight of your vehicle, the type and condition of its brakes, and the condition of and type of tires, whether radial, steel-belted, snow-studded, and the amount of tread, etc. The killing speed. Speed can kill. As speed increases, the chance of fatality increases. If you're going more than 80 miles an hour, you have almost no chance of living through a crash. The U.S. Department of Transportation has found the probability of fatality in a crash roughly doubles as traveling speeds increase from 45 to 60 miles per hour and doubles again as the speed increases from 60 to 70 miles an hour. Driving too slowly. While driving too fast is very dangerous, driving too slowly on certain highways can also be dangerous. You must never drive so slowly you will interfere with other cars or trucks that are moving at a normal speed. Many collisions are caused by persons driving too slowly. This causes traffic to back up behind them. Motorists in these backed up cars become impatient and are tempted to take the dangerous chances while passing, in order to get around the slow-moving vehicle. This is why South Carolina has a minimum speed laws as well as maximum speed laws. If you have a mechanical problem and traffic begins to pile up behind you, pull over to the side of the road and let traffic pass. Then, when traffic has passed, continue on the road, but leave it as soon as possible. Always try to maintain the speed of the traffic stream in which you are driving, provided it is a speed within the legal limit. Vehicles that cannot meet the minimum speed limit are not allowed on the highways. The only expectations are farm machinery and construction equipment that is being moved a short distance and has no other way to get to its destination. This type of equipment is not allowed on the interstate under any circumstances.
Traffic signs, signals, and pavement markings. Traffic signs, signals, and pavement markings are properly called traffic control devices because they are engineered to control the flow of traffic. Properly controlled traffic not only moves more efficiently, but also moves in such a way as to make the streets and highways safe for both motorists and pedestrians. Always look for pavement markings and stay within their boundaries. For example, when a marking at an intersection tells you it is a pedestrian crosswalk, stay behind the line and leave the entire allotted space for pedestrian use. Traffic signs are sometimes referred to as the signs of life, and that is just what they are. The same can be said for traffic signals and pavement markings. It is essential that you learn what each means before you can become a licensed driver. You must obey the instructions of official traffic control devices, unless directed otherwise by a police officer. Carefully observe and obey signals of officers directing traffic. Orders from these officers override traffic signals and signs. Obey traffic officers. Always closely observe and obey the signal of any officer directing traffic. This is the most important during times of traffic congestion or emergency, or at large public gathering when traffic is heavy and needs special regulation. Orders from a traffic officer must be obeyed even if they are contrary to signs or traffic signals. While driving a vehicle in a funeral procession, motorists are required to obey all traffic signs and signals unless otherwise directed to proceed by a law enforcement officer within the intersection. Emergency vehicles and scenes. If an emergency vehicle with flashing lights is traveling in the area which you are driving, you must make every effort to give them an open path to travel. If it is safe to do so, pull your vehicle to the side of the road to give them a clear pathway. Do not stop in the road and prevent them from passing your vehicle. When you approach a scene where there are emergency vehicles such as law enforcement vehicles, ambulances, or fire department vehicles with flashing lights, you must maintain control of your vehicle. If possible, you should move to another lane of the road that is not close to the scene. If changing lanes is not possible or safe, you should maintain a safe speed for the conditions. Emergency personnel have the authority to direct traffic, and you should comply with their instructions. It is important to exercise caution to ensure the safety of emergency personnel and those they are aiding. If you fail to drive with caution or if you interfere with the performance of their duties, you may be charged with a misdemeanor and required to pay a fine. Driving at night. Your driving speed needs to be lower at night than it is in the daytime because the distance you can see is limited by your headlight beams. Don't override your headlights. You should drive at a speed that will allow you to come to a complete stop if necessary within the distance shown by your headlights. After dark, driving requires different skills and extra care for safe travel. There are certain things to do. 1. When you meet a car at night, you must dim your headlights at least 500 feet from the approaching vehicle. 2. When you are following another vehicle at night, You must dim your lights when you are as near as 200 feet to the vehicle ahead. 3. You should drive with your dim lights, low beam, when you are driving on a well-lighted street and on a heavily traveled one. 4. You should not look directly into the lights of cars you are meeting. Instead, look toward the right edge of the road. 5. You should slow down when faced with the glare from approaching headlights. You should never wear sunglasses while driving at night. 6. You should never turn on your bright lights to pay back a motorist who is meeting you who fails to dim his lights. This practice doubles the danger for you. Instead, look toward the right edge of the road so that you will not be completely blinded. Of course, you must slow down considerably in such an event. 7. You should be on the lookout continuously for pedestrians, bicycles, and animals alongside the road. You must have your headlights turned on at night and from a half an hour after sunset to a half an hour before sunrise, and any other time when you have to use your windshield wipers. For example, in rain, sleet, or snow, or when other environmental factors like fog reduce your ability to clearly see people or vehicles on the street or highway at a distance of 500 feet ahead. However, you are not required to use your headlights when using windshield wipers intermittently in misting rain, sleet, or snow. If your vehicle is parked on a street or highway with the lights on, these lights must be low beam. However, parking lights are best used for this purpose. Every driver must see that headlights are adjusted so that the low beams are not aimed at the eyes of approaching drivers, and that the windshield and headlights are kept clean. What to do in case of a collision. No matter how well you follow the safe driving rules, there is always a possibility that you become involved in a traffic collision, and you need to know what to do. Here are some rules to remember if you are involved in a traffic collision. 1. SC law requires you to stop your vehicle if it has not already been stopped by the collision. The law also requires that you move your vehicle from the roadway to the shoulder after a collision. This is to ensure your safety and to prevent traffic congestion, which can cause more collisions. 2. Aid the injured. 3. Protect the collision scene as much as possible. If you have flares, flashing lights, or a flashlight, use any of these to warn others that there has been a collision. 4. Notify the police, sheriff, or nearest highway patrol office as soon as possible, regardless of who is at fault in the collision. Remain at the scene and send someone to notify police. 5. Identify yourself to the other driver by giving your name, address, driver's license number, and vehicle license number. Exchange your insurance company name and the policy number using your insurance card or proof the vehicle is insured. 6. The investigating officer will issue a form, insurance verification, to be completed by your liability insurance company, verifying that insurance coverage was on the vehicle at the time of the collision. 7. Submit to SC DMV appropriate verification of liability insurance coverage at the time of the collision. 8. Report the collision to your insurance company. In the event of a collision, notify law enforcement as soon as possible, regardless of who is in fault in the collision. The driver or owner of each vehicle involved in a collision in which there is apparent property damage or injury or death is required to submit a verification that the vehicle was properly covered by the liability insurance at the time of the collision. The driver must have a representative of the liability insurance company providing this coverage to properly complete the appropriate form. This insurance verification must be completed regardless of whether you were at fault or not. This completed form must be returned to SC DMV within 15 days of the issuance date. How to avoid collisions. The secret to avoiding traffic collisions is defensive driving. That is, always be on the lookout for other drivers' errors and don't let his errors cause you to have a collision. People who make their living on driving are told to keep this in mind. The most dangerous mile is the mile directly ahead of you. If they pay attention and avoid all driving errors in that 1 mile, then they are ready to take on the next mile, and so forth. 1. The first rule in defensive driving is to expect the unexpected from drivers and pedestrians around you. Be prepared to slow down when you are approaching an intersection and you have the green light or the right of way. Glance at traffic coming in all directions. Is it slowing down to stop or preparing to turn? If you see a driver who appears to be making no effort to stop, then prepare to stop yourself. It's better to give him the right of way than to have a collision. 2. Pay attention to your driving. 3. If you have stopped for a red light and the light turns green, make certain that the traffic from the other street has already stopped and that all traffic is out of the intersection before you start through. If you are a defensive driver, your eyes are constantly moving while you are behind the wheel, glancing from side to side. You look for possible collision situations and prepare to prevent the collision from occurring. An alley, a plant exit, a driveway into a business, and streets with parked cars are only 4 places where you should be on guard for a person or vehicle to dart into your path. Anticipating the actions of others is the key to defensive driving. Assume the other motorist will do the unexpected. Driving emergencies. Emergencies happen, whether they are serious or minor. There are things that you can do to help. Following are most common emergencies that can happen to you on the road and how you can handle the situation carefully and safely. Brake failure. This is perhaps the most frightening emergency you can have while you are driving. It's very dangerous, but you can do the following to avoid a serious emergency. 1. Pump your brakes. 2. Apply the emergency brake carefully. 3. Shift to lower gear. 4. Blow your horn to let others know you are in trouble. 5. Rub a curb or sideswipe an object rather than hit something head-on, if necessary, to avoid a more serious collision. Flat tire. A flat tire is probably the most common occurrence and is more of an inconvenience than anything else. It is important, however, to know how to handle your vehicle when a tire goes flat. 1. Hold the steering wheel firmly to maintain steering control. 2. Touch the brakes lightly. Never slam on your brakes, since it is important to come to a stop gradually and full control of your vehicle. 3. Pull off the roadway as soon as it is safe to do so. Stuck accelerator. There's a feeling of panic when the accelerator of your vehicle sticks and you begin traveling much faster than you would like. The important thing to remember is this: don't panic and slam on the brakes. This could cause you to have a collision with another car or run off the road. Follow these basic steps. 1. Shift to neutral. Your vehicle will then begin to slow down on its own. 2. Apply the brakes after shifting to neutral. 3. Turn off the engine when it is safe to do so. If you have power steering and power brakes, shutting off the engine will make these two extremely important car functions difficult to manage. The steering wheel may lock if engine is turned off. 4. Pull off to the side of the road just as soon as it is possible to do so safely. Stalled on tracks. If your vehicle stalls on a railroad track and a train is approaching, don't try last-minute heroics to move it. Get all passengers and yourself out as fast as possible. Run in the general direction of the approaching train, but away from the tracks. Emergency stop. When you must make an emergency stop along a road or highway, switch on the 4-way flashers if your vehicle has these safety devices. Park your vehicle completely off the traveled portion of the highway and use a method you can devise to let others traveling the road you are there. Flares, flashlights, etc. Raise the hood and tie a piece of cloth to a left door handle. Get out of your vehicle on the right side if possible, and stand clear out of traffic until help comes. Move a disabled car safely off the roadway and tie a handkerchief or other flag onto the car to signal for help. When wheels run off the pavement. If one or more of your wheels run off the pavement, don't panic. Grip the steering wheel firmly. Begin to slow down. Do this by taking your foot off the accelerator. Do not attempt to cut back sharply onto the pavement. Look to see that the road is clear, then move slowly back onto the highway. An oncoming vehicle in your lane. A vehicle approaching in your lane represents an especially critical emergency on freeways, where speeds are faster and less time is available for decision making. You should sound your horn and pull as far to the right as possible. The traffic safety experts agree that even driving into a ditch would be less hazardous than a head-on collision. Avoid skidding. If your vehicle starts to skid, steer in the direction in which the rear of your vehicle is sliding. Your natural reaction is to turn the wheel in the opposite direction, so this point is very important for you to know and remember. To avoid locked wheel skids, press your brakes slowly when stopping on slippery roads, slowing down gradually. If you
feel yourself going into a skid, quickly release your brakes and reapply when traction is regained. If you increase your speed or put on your brakes suddenly, you may lose control of your vehicle. Turning curves or corners too fast will cause skidding. Worn tire treads and poor brakes with unequal gripping can result in a skid. Other causes are water puddles where dirt has washed onto the road surface, loose sand, wet leaves, or gravel. Never mix radial type tires and other type tires. All things mentioned here in combination with excessive speed bring on most skidding. Good drivers avoid skidding by considering wet road surface and by driving at a slower speed to fit roadway conditions. Changes in the weather call for changes in driving. Be careful at all times. Weather changes call for safe driving. A sudden change in the weather calls for a change in driving. Posted speed limits are for ideal weather only. Slow down in rain and fog. Your low beam headlights, not parking lights, will help others to see you even if they don't help you to see much better. In fog, slow down and use your low beams. Be particularly aware of vehicles that may be coming up behind you and driving too fast. Tap your brakes lightly to make the driver aware of your vehicle. In rainy weather, there is a problem of skidding, and light rain can make driving more dangerous than a downpour. The oil, film, and rubber particles left on the road surface by vehicles as they travel blend with the rain to form a moisture that can be extremely slick. If you drive too fast on wet roads, you may start hydroplaning, that is, moving over the surface of the water without even touching the road surface. As you go along under these circumstances, you have no control over your vehicle, especially if you have little to no tread on your tires. Even under the best conditions, hydroplaning can occur on wet pavement. Heavy rain washes away most oil and rubber accumulations, but wet pavement in general is where most skidding occurs. Winter driving techniques. South Carolina generally does not have extreme winters, but occasionally gets some snow and ice. If you must drive, use tire chains or special snow tires on your vehicle. Also, you should 1. Keep your windshield and windows clear. 2. Test road conditions carefully. Applying the brakes gently is best for slowing down or stopping. 3. Allow additional distance between your vehicle and others when there's snow or ice. Icy patches may occur on bridges when there is no ice on the roads. 4. Approach intersections with caution. 5. Generally avoid hills, but if necessary, drive slowly and keep a steady pace and a good interval between you and the vehicle ahead. If you stop on a hill, it's extremely difficult, if not impossible, to get going again. 6. When possible, travel in the tracks where other vehicles have gone. 7. When you get stuck in snow, try using cardboard, newspaper, or brush under your wheels for traction. 8. Load extra weight into the trunk of your car. This will help give your car traction, rear-wheel drive. Keep a full tank of gasoline to prevent condensation, which may freeze in your tank, causing further problems. 9. Do not abandon your vehicle in the roadway, if at all possible. Experts say that letting a little air out of your tires may help give you added traction, but it can also prove dangerous. Since most of today's tires are tubeless, If too much air is released, the seal will be broken around the rim of the tire, resulting in a flat tire. Driving in fog. When driving in fog, you should slow down and use your low beam lights. If the fog is so bad that you cannot see, pull off the road and wait for the fog to clear. Driving in smoke. If you notice that the road ahead is covered by heavy smoke, reduce your speed immediately. Drive as far as possible to the right and stop off the roadway. Then determine if it is safe to continue. Certain types of smoke, if inhaled, can irritate your lungs and eyes. Inhaling smoke from chemical fires can kill you. If you suddenly enter smoke and it is very thick, slow down, turn on your low beam headlights, signal for a right turn, and get off the travel portion of the roadway as quickly as you can. Then turn on your emergency flashers. After you have stopped, get yourself and all passengers out of the vehicle and move back in the direction from which you were traveling to get out of the smoke and to warn other drivers of the situation. If possible, notify the highway patrol or law enforcement agency. Never stop on a highway travel portion of the freeway or roadway. This could cause a collision for other drivers. Flooded roads. Flooding can occur when rivers and streams overflow their banks, when dams or levees break, when there is runoff from deep snow, or any time there is heavy rainfall. Floodwaters can be found on roads, bridges, and low areas. Flash floods can come rapidly and unexpectedly. They can occur within a few minutes or hours of excessive rainfall. Do not drive through flooded areas. If you see a flooded roadway ahead, turn around and find another route to get to your destination. Be cautious, especially at night when the visibility is limited. Remember, 6 inches of water will reach the bottom of most passenger cars, causing loss of control or possibly stalling. 2 feet of moving water can carry away most vehicles, including SUVs and pickup trucks. Even if the water appears shallow enough to cross, do not attempt to cross a flooded road. Water can hide dips and other unseen hazards. Floodwaters can also damage roadways by washing away the underlying road surface. If there is no other route, proceed to higher ground and wait for the water to subside. Know your vehicle. Driving a car or truck in unsafe mechanical condition is both dangerous and illegal in South Carolina. You cannot be given the road test part of the examination unless the vehicle in which you expect to take the test meets all the requirements of the state law. If the examiner finds your vehicle to be defective, you must have it corrected before being tested. The driver is responsible for having the vehicle in safe driving condition. Brakes. Your vehicle must have 2 separate means of applying brakes, a foot brake and a parking brake. The foot brakes must be able to stop your vehicle within a braking distance of 24 feet when traveling at 20 miles an hour on a dry, smooth, level road. The parking brake must be able to hold your vehicle on any hill. There are additional brake equipment requirements for trailers, semi-trailers, etc., which you should learn if you try to drive this type of vehicle. Horn. Your vehicle must have a horn that can be heard 200 feet, nearly half a block away, but you should not have a horn or other warning device that would give off unreasonably loud and harsh signals. Remember, the horn should be used as a warning when necessary for safety. Exhaust system. Your car must be equipped with a muffler and exhaust pipe in good condition so they will reduce noise and prevent poisonous gases, carbon monoxide, from escaping into the vehicle, especially when the windows are closed. A faulty exhaust system can result in carbon monoxide poisoning, which can be fatal to those traveling in the car or truck sitting with the motor running. If you become drowsy while driving, you should open a window for fresh air. You should stop your vehicle and check to determine if your exhaust system is leaking. Mirrors. Your vehicle must have an inside rear view mirror. For safety's sake, an outside mirror is considered a must by careful drivers. Even with these mirrors, which should be used constantly when a driver is in traffic, there remains a blind spot. If a vehicle is built or loaded so that a regular inside mirror does not allow the driver to see behind them, he must obtain a special type of outside mirror and have it located so that he can see what's happening in the traffic behind him. To the left, outside mirror should be adjusted to let you see just a little of the left side of your vehicle when you are sitting in a normal driving position. Windshield. Windshield wipers should always be in good working order. Your car or truck must never have any sign, poster, or other sticker upon the windshield or windows that may interfere with a driver's view. All window glass must be in good condition so as not to interfere with the driver's vision. Tires. The tires on your vehicle must have good treads and otherwise be in safe condition. It is important to remember that high speed, especially in hot weather, places added stress and strain on tires and could cause an already weak tire to give way and result in a collision. Have your tires checked out at least once every week for proper air pressure and condition, including punctures, breaks, and tread wear. Good tread can be a lifesaver, particularly when driving on wet pavement, because it can prevent your car or truck from going into dangerous skid. License plate. Your vehicle must be officially registered and the single license plate must be displayed on the rear of your vehicle, except for truck tractors and road tractors used for towing trailers. The license plate must be visible at night by means of a white light illuminating it. You have a responsibility to make certain your license plate can be read. Lights. You should make sure that all lights on your vehicle are working at all times. Illegal equipment. The following are illegal extras for any vehicle in South Carolina. 1. A red light in front. Only authorized emergency vehicles such as fire engines, ambulances, etc. may have these warning signals. 2. A siren, bell, or whistle. 3. A muffler, cutout, or loud-sounding muffler. 4. Signs, posters, or stickers on the windshield or windows unless required or permitted by law. 5. More than one spotlight installed. 6. More than 2 fog lights. 7. More than 2 side or fender lights. 8. More than 2 backup lights. These must not light up when the vehicle is going forward. 9. Any load on your passenger car extending beyond the fender on the left side or 6 inches beyond the fender on the right side. 10. A blue light, which is for law enforcement officers only. 11. A television in the front seat where it can be seen by the driver. For your safety and the safety of others, make sure that your vehicle has all the required equipment in good working order at all times. Safety belt saves lives. Safety belt saves lives. No one who works in the traffic safety doubts this for a moment. Yet drivers and passengers continue to ignore this life-saving feature. Safety belts sit idle while in traffic fatalities continue to mount. Develop the safety belt habit. Before long, it will become something you do automatically. The same goes for the shoulder harness in your vehicle. The federal government requires manufacturers to equip all vehicles with safety belts and shoulder harnesses. A light on the dash will flash or a buzzer will sound to remind you to buckle your safety belts. Use your safety belt and shoulder harness whether you're driving just around the corner or taking a trip to California or anywhere in between. If your car or truck does not have safety belts, do yourself a favor and have them installed immediately. Safety belt use is required by law. Child restraint. Child restraint seats approved by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration are required for children under 6 years of age. Children under 6 years of age may not sit in the front passenger seat. However, this restriction does not apply if the vehicle has no rear passenger seats or if all rear passenger seats are occupied by children less than 6 years old. This law does not apply to church, school, and daycare buses, taxis, or commercial vehicles. 4 out of 5 children in safety seats are improperly restrained. Parents should have their children's safety seats inspected for proper installation. The Department of Public Safety, Office of Highway Safety maintains a child passenger safety seating fitting stations. For more information, call 803-896-9950 or 1-877 349-1787. You can also visit their website at www.buckleupsc.com. 4 steps for protecting children in car seats. Step 1. Children from birth to 1 year old who weigh less than 20 pounds should be secured in a rear-facing child safety seat. Step 2. Children 1 through 5 years old weighing 20 to 40 pounds must be restrained in a forward-facing child seat. Step 3. Children through 5 years old weighing 40 to 80 pounds must be secured in a belt positioning booster seat. Step 4. Children under the age of 6 are not required to be in booster seats if they weigh more than 80 pounds or if they can sit with their backs against the car seat and bend their legs over the seat edge without slouching. Sharing the road. When you're behind the rear, you're sharing the road with many other drivers, pedestrians, and cyclists, just to name a few. Taking the appropriate precautions can mean the difference between life and death. Sharing the road with pedestrians. Pedestrians are key participants in our transportation system. A trip taken by foot requires no gas, creates no emissions, reduces traffic congestion, and even improves the individual's health. Just as they are sharing the road with other cars, it is important for motorists to stay alert to the presence of pedestrians. Every mode of travel has equal priority on the road, and it is the motorist's responsibility to yield to a pedestrian. Any person on foot, such as a runner, walker, or mother with a stroller, is a pedestrian. A pedestrian can be someone who uses roller skates and skateboards, or a person with a disability on a tricycle, quadricycle, or in a wheelchair. As a driver, it is your responsibility to be on the lookout and to take every precaution possible not to injure a person on foot. If you see a vehicle, pedestrian, or children near the road, you should slow down and be prepared to stop. There are 3 types of persons who most often become pedestrian fatalities: the small child, the older person, and the drinking in public. In case of very young children, a responsible driver will always check around his car before getting into it to be sure no child is in the vehicle's path. It is your responsibility to take precautions not to injure a person on foot. Walking from behind parked cars is very common action in fatal collisions involving a pedestrian. All 3 types of pedestrians that we mentioned commit this dangerous action. A child chasing a ball gives no thought to an oncoming car. His mind is strictly on play, and he may dart into the street quite suddenly. Some older people may not be able to move as quickly as younger persons and may have a slight hearing impairments, making it difficult for them to see a car or judge its distance. A drinking pedestrian may have his senses and judgment impaired. As a responsible driver, you should always slow down and be prepared to stop quickly when you are driving on streets lined with parked cars. You must also react in the same manner when you come upon any situation where people are gathered alongside of the street or highway on which you are traveling. Night is a particularly dangerous time on rural highways for pedestrians. Sounding the horn of your car as a warning is always a good idea when you are faced with a vehicle-pedestrian collision. It may warn the person on foot in time for him to stop or move out of the road. The law acts to regulate pedestrians' actions as well as younger actions as a motorist. At the crosswalk, you should yield by slowing or stopping for a pedestrian who is on your side of the roadway, or who is close enough to your side to be in danger. Unless they are at an intersection or within a marked crosswalk, the pedestrian must yield to your vehicles. Pedestrians must walk facing traffic. In entering an intersection on a green signal, a driver making a right or left turn is required by law to yield to pedestrians on the cross street lawfully within the intersection. Do not stop in a crosswalk. Blind pedestrians have a special protection under the law. South Carolina law requires that a driver must stop and yield to the right-of-way of a blind person who has entered the street carrying a white cane or is accompanied by a guide dog.
Whether pedestrian is handicapped or not, you as a driver should always be willing to give the pedestrian the right of way, regardless of whether he has it or not. Again, slow down and keep a watchful eye in all areas where pedestrians are located, urban areas, around schools and institutions, and street and highway intersections, and all other places where groups may be congregated. Take your responsibility seriously. Keep your eyes open for him. After all, every person is a pedestrian, and at one time or another, and that includes you.
As a driver, it is your responsibility to look out for bicyclists. They have a right to use streets and highways too. Sharing the road with cyclists. As a driver, you have a responsibility to be on the lookout for cyclists. Treat him courteously, since he does not have the same rights and responsibilities as an automobile driver's to use the streets and highways. Cyclists are part of the normal traffic flow and are entitled to share the road with other drivers. A growing problem for drivers is the inability to see the bicyclist. The motorist is very often technically at fault in a bicyclist motor vehicle collision. The most common reason given is, "I just didn't see him." Sometimes he may be in the blind spot of your car. You should constantly check the blind spot by looking over your shoulder, checking your rear view mirror, and by moving your eyes from side to side in anticipation of the bicycle rider. Cyclists must ride in the same direction as other traffic, not against it. A cyclist may, but is not required to, ride on the shoulder of the roadway. They may ride in a lane or other than the right-hand lane if only one lane is available that permits the cyclist continue on his intended route. They should normally ride in a straight line and as near to the right curb or edge of roadway as practical. Cyclists can legally move from left to left, passing a parked or moving vehicle, another bicycle, an animal, or to make a turn. Avoid debris or other hazards. A cyclist may indicate a right turn by extending the left arm upward, raising the left arm to the square, or by extending the right arm horizontally to the right. A left turn is indicated by extending the left arm horizontally. A decrease in speed or stop is indicated by extending the left arm or the right arm downward. A cyclist is not required to give signals if the hand or arm is needed to control the cycle. A bicycle lane is the portion of the roadway or paved lane separate from the roadway that has been designed by stripping pavement markings and signage for the exclusive use of cyclists. When a bicycle lane has been provided adjacent to the roadway, motor vehicles may not block the bicycle lane to oncoming bicycle traffic, and shall yield to a cyclist in the bicycle ride in the bicycle lane, except when necessary to pass another person riding a bicycle or to avoid an obstruction in the bicycle lane. However, cyclists may ride on the roadway when there is only an adjacent recreational bicycle path available instead of a bicycle lane. Remember, it is unlawful to harass, taunt, or maliciously throw an object at or in the direction of any person riding a bicycle. Here are some of the critical points for drivers to remember. 1. When attempting to pass a bicyclist, you must treat the bicycle as any other vehicle you would pass. 2. Allow for the bicyclist to make mistakes. Watch swerving cycles and sudden turns. 3. The horn should be used to attract the bike rider's attention and not as a threat to get out of your way. 4. Drivers must be careful when driving close to cyclists and should maintain a safe operating distance between the motor vehicle and the cyclist. 5. Before passing a cyclist in narrow traffic lane, wait until the traffic is clear in the opposite lane and then change lanes to pass the cyclist. Do not attempt to squeeze past the cyclist. 6. Leave ample room when turning right after passing the cyclist so the cyclist is not cut off when you slow for the turn. 7. Even with a proper headlight and rear reflector, a bike is still difficult to see. Use extra caution after dark, especially in poorly lit areas. 8. Automobile drivers should anticipate cyclists at parks,
playgrounds, and near schools, and especially in residential areas. Night is a very difficult time for bicycle rider and the automobile driver. Alertness is required from both. 9. After parking on streets and before getting out of a motor vehicle, the driver and passengers should be careful not to strike a bicyclist when opening car doors.
Sharing the road with motorcycles and mopeds. Motorcycles have the same rights and responsibilities as other drivers on the road. However, it is more difficult to see them. There are special situations and conditions drivers need to be aware of so we can safely share the road with them. Motorcycle operators have the right to use a complete traffic lane, and 2 motorcycles may share a lane. A car should not try to share a lane with a motorcycle. A motorcycle's size can easily move into a car's blind spot. Always make a visual check for motorcycles by checking all mirrors and blind spots before entering or leaving a lane of traffic and at intersections. Never assume a motorcycle is turning when you see a turn signal flashing. Motorcycle turn signals may not turn off automatically. Do not pull out in front of a motorcycle unless you tell they are turning. Signal your intentions before changing lanes or merging with traffic to allow the motorcyclist time to anticipate traffic flow. Obstacles and road conditions can sometimes be easily maneuvered around by a motorist. However, can be deadly to a motorcyclist. Be prepared for sudden changes in lanes or speed as they avoid road hazards. Allow room for the motorcyclist to maneuver. Follow the same rules for a moped as listed above. Sharing the road with emergency vehicles. Emergency vehicle drivers must drive with regard for the safety of other highway users. Under emergency conditions, drivers may violate certain rules of the road, such as driving faster than the posted speed limit, going through a red light or stop sign after slowing down, parking in places where it is usually prohibited, and disregarding rules covering direction of movement or turning. Some emergency vehicles have sirens and flashing red lights, or a combination of flashing red and blue lights. These lights help the emergency vehicles move quickly through the traffic to assist emergency calls. The different types of emergency vehicles include ambulances, fire department, and police cars. As a driver, when you hear a siren or an emergency vehicle approaching, you should pull over to the curb or the edge of a road and stop. For one-way streets, drive parallel to the road at edge closest to you. Avoid intersections when possible. After the emergency vehicle passes, check the traffic around you before you return to the roadway. You must keep a safe distance between your vehicle and the emergency vehicle. During an emergency situation, you must obey any uniformed officer. Sharing the road with commercial vehicles. There are many crashes between cars and commercial vehicles each year. To actively prevent these crashes from occurring, a driver must remember large vehicles. 1. Do not maneuver like a car. It takes longer to stop and to accelerate a large vehicle, and they need more room to turn. 2. Have much larger blind spots than cars, even though a truck driver sits higher above the road than a person driving a car. The no zone is areas around large trucks and buses where cars cannot be seen. These blind spots are found on the sides, rear, and front of a large vehicle. Side no zones. The side no zones are located on both sides of large trucks and buses. Trucks have a larger blind spot on the right side, starting behind the cab and extending the length of the truck. If you cannot see the driver's face in the side mirror, they cannot see you. Always avoid driving beside a large vehicle for long periods at a time. Front no zones. Due to the size and weight of trucks and buses, they take longer to stop than cars. Therefore, it is essential to not enter a roadway or change lanes in front of a large vehicle. When changing lanes, make sure you can see the entire front of the vehicle in your rear view mirror before pulling in front of a large vehicle. It is important to maintain the same speed while doing this. Rear no zones. Blind spots for large vehicles can extend up to 200 feet directly behind the vehicle. The large vehicle cannot see your car, and you cannot see traffic directly in front of you. Avoid following a large vehicle too closely, and position yourself so that the driver can see you easily. When possible, avoid driving in the right lane when traveling up and down hills, and when approaching truck weigh stations where large vehicles will be re-entering faster moving traffic. Turning. Truck drivers must make wide turns in order for the rear of the truck to clear corners and curves. It is very important to pay close attention when a large vehicle uses turn signals. Do not pass a truck until it has completed turning, as sometimes it uses space from other lanes to clear corners. Be cautious around work zones. A work zone is any type of road work which may delay traffic conditions. Work zones usually involve lane closures or detours. Sweepers, line painting trucks, mowing equipment, and heavy machinery are common moving equipment in work zones. Work zones on highways have become increasingly dangerous for workers and drivers. When approaching a work zone, watch for materials such as cones, barrels, signs, large vehicles, or workers to warn you and direct you where to go. All temporary signs in work zones have an orange background and black letters or symbols. These signs can be found on either side of the road and tell you what and how soon you will encounter a work zone. Most work zones will notify the driver of any speed limit changes. Speed reductions are intended for the safety of workers and motorists. Reduced speed limits are clearly posted within the work zone, and if there are no reduced signs, drivers should obey the normal speed limit. Keep the following tips in mind while entering a work zone. Slow down and obey posted speed limits. Follow work zone sign instructions and those given by a flagger. Remember, work zones can change daily, include lane shifts and closures. Be extremely cautious in a work zone at night. Watch the traffic around you and be prepared to react to what the traffic is doing. Be prepared to respond quickly if necessary. Keep a safe distance between your vehicle and traffic barriers, trucks, construction equipment, and workers. Most importantly, don't tailgate. Police and traffic stops. If you are pulled over by a police officer, pull over to the right side of the roadway and stop your vehicle as far away from traffic as possible to ensure safety for both you and the officer. Turn off the engine, radio, CD player, or any other device which may get in the way of communications with the officer. If it is nighttime, turn on your hazard flashers and interior lights to help the officer see. Roll down your window to communicate with the officer. It is important that you and your passengers remain calm and keep your safety belt fastened. Keep your hands on the steering wheel and limit movements. If the officer asks for your driver's license, proof of insurance, and or vehicle registration, tell the officer where it is located and slowly reach for them. Remain in the vehicle at all times unless requested by the officer to get out. Always answer questions clearly and fully. Never run from the police, as it is dangerous. Many fatal crashes occur from police chases. The consequences for running from the police are more severe than the initial traffic violation. Littering is against the law. One of the most thoughtless and distasteful things you can do while riding in a vehicle is to throw trash along the streets and highways. It's also against the law. Offenders can be arrested and fined. You can be fined for litter law violations and directed to pick up litter along the roadsides under supervision of the court. Take pride in your state and its beauty. Don't be included in that group of thoughtless and irresponsible people who litter the highway. You should keep a litter container in your car or truck at all times. Place paper cups, candy wrappers, bottles, and other litter in this container. Then, when the container is filled, dispose of it in a trash can or other appropriate litter receptacle. Cigarettes and cigarette butts are also considered litter and should be kept inside your vehicle until they can be disposed of properly. Driving tips for mature drivers. These are the problems that face an older driver in today's traffic. 1. As age progresses, hearing and eyesight are often less keen. 2. Judgment may be slower. It takes longer to recognize traffic situations and to make the necessary decisions. 3. Physical dexterity is weakened. Older people may not have the same ability to act with speed and decisiveness in an emergency. 4. The older driver may forget that the volume of traffic is increasing all the time and that new rules and regulations are being continually introduced. Here's a chance to check your own driving. These are common causes of trouble among older drivers. If 2 or 3 of the points apply to you, you should take the necessary steps to correct them. 1. Do you need 2 or 3 tries when parking your car parallel to the curb in a parking space? 2. Have you encountered difficulty in distinguishing between objects such as a hydrant and a small child when driving at night? 3. Does the glare from headlights of approaching cars cause prolonged discomfort to your eyes at night? 4. Do you have trouble maintaining the pace of other cars, or do they seem to be passing you all the time? 5. Does it take you quite a long time to get going again after the light has turned green? 6. Are you getting an increasing number of minor scrapes, such as from your garage door and dents on your car? 7. Are you missing stop signs, highway signs, and other traffic indicators? 8. Do you find yourself becoming confused when unexpected or unfamiliar things happen while you are driving? 9. Do you have trouble making out objects that are a few feet away? 10. When a car is approaching you on the road, do you have trouble judging how far away it is at a given moment? 11. When you are looking straight ahead in the driver's seat, do you have difficulty seeing the sides of the road? Drugs and driving. Drugs are everywhere and in every form. Some are prescribed by physicians, while others are purchased over the drugstore counter. There are medicines for colds, fatigue, tension, depression, and many other conditions that make human beings uncomfortable. Many of the drugs we take carry warnings for adverse side effects such as dizziness, drowsiness, or sleepiness. If you are taking medications, be aware of the side effects and do not drive if they interfere with your ability to drive. Certain illegal drugs, which may do you serious harm under any circumstances, present an especially serious hazard when you drive a vehicle after using them. Driving requires your full attention. You need to be at your best physically, mentally, and emotionally. Medications, both non-prescription and prescription, can be extremely dangerous if you are suffering side effects and are therefore less alert and less in control of your reflexes than you would be under normal circumstances. Perhaps the most dangerous aspect of drugs and driving is when drugs are used in combination with alcohol or other drugs. The effect may make you unfit to drive. If you take medications for conditions such as nervousness, obesity, high blood pressure, hay fever, and asthma, then take only 1 ounce of alcohol. The mixture can become many times more dangerous. Keep all of these things in mind when you're getting ready to drive. Don't endanger your own life and the lives of others by driving when you are not up to par. Alcohol is the most abused drug in America. There's no doubt about it. Alcohol is the most abused drug in America today. Drinking plus driving equals deaths in many cases. South Carolina traffic records show that drinking is definitely involved in a high percentage of all fatal collisions. There are so many incorrect ideas about alcohol and what it does that there is not enough room for us to go into all of them in this book, but we will mention 3 wrong notions. 1. Drinking alcohol increases efficiency. This is not true. Alcohol is not a stimulant. It is a depressant, so it relaxes. Alcohol hits you first in 2 places: in the brain, dulling your judgment, and in your reflexes, making them unreliable. 2. If you've had too much to drink, coffee, milk, or food will sober you. This is also untrue. Only time will sober you. Alcohol leaves the body at the rate of about 1 ounce per hour. Once the alcohol is in your body, there is nothing you can do to hurry that process. 3. If you stick to beer or wine, you won't get drunk. Untrue. It's the alcohol that causes the problem, not the form in which you take it, liquor, beer, or wine. SC has an implied consent law. This law says that by driving on the state's streets and highways, a motorist implies his consent to take a chemical test for intoxication. If you refuse to take this test when called upon to do so, your license immediately will be suspended for 6 months. This will be in addition to any suspension you might receive if you are convicted for driving under the influence of intoxicating liquors or unlawful blood/breath alcohol content. The same law states that if the chemical test shows you to have a blood alcohol concentration of 0.08% or higher, it may be inferred that you are under the influence of alcohol. It doesn't take many drinks to reach this level. If you are under 21 years of age and drive with a blood/breath alcohol content of 0.02 or greater, you will be suspended for 3 months for the first offense and 6 months for a second offense within a 5-year period. If you refuse to take the chemical test to determine the alcohol content in your blood, you will be immediately suspended for 6 months for the first offense. That old saying, if you drink, don't drive, is still true. If you're going somewhere and plan to drink, make plans to have someone along who will be sober and let him or her drive. If there's no one who can assume the driving responsibility, then call a taxi or catch a bus. Don't drive. If you are driving and have a collision, your troubles are multiplied and can very easily change the rest of your life. Keeping your license. Your driver's license grants you the privilege of driving a motor on South Carolina's streets and highways. You may also enjoy with your South Carolina's driver's license the privilege of operating a motor vehicle in every state of the United States. This privilege lasts only as long as you drive safely. That's why this handbook constantly reminds you about safe driving. Nothing is more important. Remember, as a driver, safety is your most important job. If your license is withdrawn, this means that there is some condition that has come to the attention of SC DMV, which says you are not qualified to have a driver's license. You will not be able to get one again until the reason for the withdrawal is corrected. Withdrawal results from the mandatory requirement of law following conviction on certain traffic violations. If your license is revoked, you must wait until the period of revocation is passed, make a new application, and take the complete examination just as if you never had a license. You should check to determine the financial responsibility requirement. If your license is suspended, you cannot drive again until the time has passed for your suspension under the point system for driving under the influence, or for 2 charges of reckless driving and so forth. You must take both the knowledge and road test for reinstatement of your driving privilege. You should check to determine the financial responsibility requirements also. If your license is canceled, this indicates that you never should have had a valid license in the first place, except where a signature of responsibility for a minor is withdrawn. It could come about because of falsification of information on your license application or concealing facts which could affect your driving privilege. If your license is revoked, suspended, or canceled, SC DMV will mail you a letter. For certain offenses, you must surrender your license to the court at the time of conviction. If you do so, your suspension period may begin on the date of the conviction, unless you are already suspended for another reason. If you do not surrender your license to the court, you must either bring it or send it to the DMV. License revocation. Your license will be revoked when 1. You are found guilty of killing any person while driving a car in a careless manner. 2. You are found guilty of any felony in which a motor vehicle is used. 3. You are involved in any collision in which someone is killed or injured, and you fail to stop and give assistance. 4. You are convicted of driving a motor vehicle engaged in a race on a public street or highway. 5. You furnish false information pertaining to financial responsibility on your motor vehicle registration. 6. You become mentally or physically incompetent to drive. License suspension. Your license will be suspended when 1. You are found guilty or forfeit bond on a charge of driving while under the influence of intoxicating liquor or narcotic drugs. For the first conviction, your license will be suspended for 6 months. For the second offense, 1 year. For the third offense, 2 years. This is in addition to the fines that may be imposed. 2. You refuse to take the test for intoxication when called upon to do so by a law enforcement officer. If the officer has complied with all the requirements of the law in this instance, then your refusal to take the test can mean that your driving privileges will be suspended for 6 months. This is in addition to any suspension if you are convicted of driving under the influence of intoxicating liquor. 3. You are convicted of reckless driving for a second time within 5 years and each subsequent conviction within that period. The law provides severe penalties for those found guilty of reckless driving. You are driving recklessly when you willfully drive any car or other motor vehicle in a manner that disregards the lives and property of others. Your driver's license will be suspended for 3 months if you are convicted or forfeit bond on the second charge. 4. You are involved in a collision and subsequently sued for the damages, and an unsatisfied judgment is rendered against you. 5. You help another person to race on a public highway by lending him a motor vehicle, or if you soup up an engine for the purpose of racing, either for yourself or someone else. The penalties for this violation of the racing law are severe. If you are convicted of taking part in a race on any public road, street, or highway, you may be fined, imprisoned, or both. In addition, your driver's license and vehicle registration will be suspended for a year. If you assist in a race or permit your vehicle to be used in a race, you may be fined and or imprisoned. In addition, your driver's license and your vehicle registration will be suspended for 3 months. Number 6. You are convicted of hauling illegal whiskey. Number 7. You accumulate 12 points under the point system law, which includes violations committed outside of the state. 8. If you hold a beginner's permit, conditional, provisional, or special restricted driver's license, then you accumulate 6 or more points, your driving privileges will be suspended for 6 months for excessive points. If you are suspended for excessive points, completing the National Safety Defensive Driver Course or its equivalent will not reinstate the suspension. The points that resulted in the excessive point suspension can also be used in a point system suspension. If you are a violation-prone driver, but will recognize your faults and so improve your driving so that you get no more points, your record will eventually be cleared. Points 1 year old are cut in half, and after 2 years, they will be wiped out completely. However, the violation will remain on your record for 3 years from the date SC DMV received the ticket. A provision in the law provides for reducing a driver's points by 4 upon successful completion of an approved defensive driving course. Only one such reduction in a 3-year period is permitted under this provision. The following are violations and the points for each. Hit and run, property damage only, 6 points. Reckless driving, 6 points. Passing stopped school bus, 6 points. Speeding 25 miles per hour or above the posted limit, 6 points. Disobedience of any official traffic device, 4 points. Disobedience to official directing traffic, 4 points. Disregard railroad sign or signal, 4 points. Disobedience to signal of approaching train, 4 points. Driving on the wrong side of the road, 4 points. Driving through or within safety zone, 4 points. Failure to give or giving improper signal, 4 points. Failure to yield right of way, 4 points. Following too closely, 4 points. Operating with improper brakes, 4 points. Passing unlawfully, 4 points. Speeding more than 10 miles per hour but less than 25 miles per hour, 4 points. Driving too fast for conditions over 10 miles per hour, 4 points. Turning unlawfully, 4 points. Defective tail light, 2 points. Driving a vehicle in unsafe condition, 2 points. Driving in improper lane, 2 points. Failure to dim lights, 2 points. Improper backing, 2 points. Improper dangerous parking, 2 points. Operating with improper lights, 2 points. Shifting lanes improperly, 2 points. Speeding 10 miles per hour or less, 2 points. Driving too fast for conditions, 10 miles per hour or less, 2 points. Reckless driving that disregards the lives and property of others is punishable by law. License cancellation. Your license can be canceled if you are a minor under 18 years old and your parent or guardian or whoever signed for you withdraws his or her signature from your license application. If you give false information on your application. If you are a male and decline selective service at age 18. Driving under suspension. Of course, if your license has been revoked, suspended, or canceled, you must not drive a vehicle until the condition which brought about such an action is cleared. If you do and are apprehended and convicted, you will be fined and or imprisoned, and your suspension will be doubled. For a second conviction, there is a fine and/or imprisonment, and the suspension time will again be doubled. For a third and subsequent offense, you may be subject to imprisonment, and your license suspension will be doubled. Driving without a license. The penalty for driving without a license includes a fine and/or imprisonment. Alcohol and controlled substance. South Carolina law requires the suspension of driving privileges if you are under 21 years of age and are convicted of possession of alcohol, beer, wine, or liquor. Even if the violation did not occur in a motor vehicle. A person over 21 can also have their driving privileges suspended if they are convicted of transferring alcohol to a minor. For a first offense, in addition to a fine and/or imprisonment, your driver's license will be suspended for 120 days, and for a second or subsequent offense, your driver's license will be suspended for 1 year. If you are convicted of a controlled substance violation, your driving privileges will be suspended for 6 months for hashish and marijuana, and 1 year for any other controlled substance in addition to fines and/or imprisonment. Delinquent child support. Your driver's child license will be suspended if you are in arrears in child support payments. Once suspended, the department must receive verification from the Department of Social Services before your privilege to drive can be restored. You may be eligible for a route restricted driver's license. Habitual offenders. A habitual offender driver law is in effect in South Carolina. Its aim is to remove from the highway those whose driving records show they are a danger to others. The law provides that a driver will be classified as a habitual offender if he is convicted of having committed within a 3-year period 3 or more major offenses, or any combination of 10 minor offenses or removing violations for which 4 or more points are assigned under the point system. A driver who has been classified a habitual offender will have his or her driver's license suspended for 5 years. Major offenses: child endangerment, driving under suspension, driving under the influence, failure to stop for blue light resulting in bodily injury or death, felony driving under the influence, felony in a motor vehicle, leaving the scene of an accident with bodily injury or death, passing a stopped school bus with bodily injury or death, reckless driving, reckless homicide, unlawful alcohol concentration, voluntary or involuntary manslaughter, subsequent offenses of failure to stop for a blue light. Minor offenses: disobeying an official traffic device, disobeying an official directing traffic, driving on the wrong side of the road, driving through or within a safety zone, driving too fast for conditions over 10 miles per hour, failure to give or giving improper signal, failure to yield right of way, following too closely, hit and run property damage, operating a vehicle with improper brakes, passing a stopped school bus, passing unlawfully, reckless driving, speeding over 10 miles per hour, turning unlawfully. Collision-prone drivers. Any licensed driver who is involved as a driver in 4 reportable collisions in any 24-month period, according to law, may be required to take any portion of the driver's license examination, or the license may be recalled by the SC DMV. Failure to do so will result in the suspension of the driver's license until he or she takes and passes the required test. Professional driver's license. A South Carolina's licensed driver who is convicted of a first offense during driving under the influence of intoxicants or an unlawful alcohol concentration may qualify for a provisional driver's license. The initial steps to obtain such a license are: 1. File proof of financial responsibility for the future with SC DMV. 2. Enroll in an alcohol and drug safety action program approved by the South Carolina Department of Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Services. The Commission maintains offices and conducts the school in each county of the state. Consult your local telephone directory for the SC Department of Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Services for further information. The provisional driver's license is issued for a period not to exceed 6 months. After the suspension period, a person must successfully complete all phases of the driver's examination, pay a reinstatement fee, maintain SR-22, and have completed ADSAP prior to being issued a regular driver's license. To obtain the provisional driver's license, an individual can have no other existing suspension record against him. This license will be automatically revoked and the full suspension imposed if the person is charged with and convicted of any violations totaling 4 or more points, or any other law relative to the operation of a motor vehicle for which suspension of a driver's license is made mandatory by law. Drivers whose licenses have been suspended due to driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs are required by law to enroll and successfully complete ADSAP and file an SR-22 insurance form. Route restricted driver's license. A route restricted driver's license is only available for certain suspensions and not all drivers are eligible. This type of special license allows an SC driver to drive to and from work, college, ADSAP classes, and any court-ordered program while he or she is under suspension. Drivers under the age of 21 who have been charged with registering an alcohol content of 0.02 or greater or refusing to submit a breath, blood, or urine test are not eligible for a route restricted license. Temporary alcohol license. The temporary alcohol license is available to eligible drivers while they await the outcome of an administrative hearing for registering an alcohol concentration of 0.15 or greater, refusing to submit to a breath, blood, or urine test. Driving under the influence. The cost of driving under the influence of intoxicating beverages or drugs can be a lot more than you may imagine. If you are found guilty or forfeit bond on a charge of driving under the influence of intoxicating liquor, narcotic drugs, or unlawful blood/breath alcohol content, your privilege to drive will be suspended. The offenses and corresponding suspension periods are as follows. First offense, 6 months suspension. Second offense, 1 year suspension. Third offense, 2 year suspension. Fourth offense, permanent suspension. If you receive 3 convictions within 5 years, your driving privileges will be suspended for 4 years. Prior violations are determined by violations occurring within a 10-year period. If you are eligible for a provisional license, you will have to pay to attend the required Alcohol and Drug Safety Action Program, ADSAP, school. Prove that you have SR-22 liability insurance coverage, and pay the required fee for a provisional license. Before obtaining a regular license, you must have successfully completed the ADSAP school, pay a reinstatement fee, and maintain SR-22 liability insurance coverage. If, while driving under the influence, you have a collision in which you cause great bodily injury to someone else, you will be charged with a felony DUI, fined, imprisoned, and your driver's license will be suspended for 3 years, plus the term of imprisonment. If death results, you will be fined and your driver's license will be suspended for 5 years, plus a term of imprisonment. Penalties for every DUI offense after the first one are progressively severe. No part of the minimum sentence can be suspended. License suspension periods also increase with subsequent offenses. Upon the 4th violation, you will be permanently barred from being issued a license to operate a motor vehicle. The legal drinking age in South Carolina is 21 years of age. If you are under 21 when you obtain your license, it will be marked with under 21 to make verification of your age easier. It is illegal to be in the possession of any alcoholic beverages in an open container in a moving vehicle on the highways. Ignition interlock device. If you have been convicted of a second or subsequent DUI offense, have completed the required license suspension period, and the ADSAP, and you wish to get your driver's license back, you must get an IID installed on the vehicle you plan to drive. The length of time you will be required to have the IID installed will depend upon your convictions and any violations you might have during the program. For additional information, contact the IID program manager at ignition@ppp.state.sc.us or 803-734-9220. You may also visit the SC Department of Probation, Parole, and Pardon Services website at www.dmv dpps.sc.gov/ignition_interlock.html. Vehicle immobilization. If you are convicted for a second or subsequent offense of driving under the influence, driving with unlawful alcohol concentration, DUAC, or felony driving under the influence, DUI, DMV will issue a 30-day registration suspension on all of your active vehicle registrations. Implied consent law. South Carolina has an implied consent law. This law states that every motorist implies his consent to take a chemical test for intoxication simply by driving on South Carolina's streets and highways. Persons over 21 years of age. If you are over 21 years of age and register a blood/breath alcohol concentration of 0.15, your privilege to drive will be suspended. The offenses and corresponding suspension periods are as follows. First offense, 1 month suspension. Second offense, 2 month suspension. Third offense, 3 month suspension. Fourth and subsequent offense, 4 month suspension. If you refuse to take the test for intoxicants and it is your first offense, your privilege to drive will be suspended. The offenses and corresponding suspension periods are as follows. First offense, 6 month suspension. Second offense, 9 month suspension. Third offense, 12 month suspension. Fourth and subsequent offense, 15-month suspension. Persons under 21 years of age. If you are under 21 years of age and register a BAC of .02 or greater, your privilege to drive will be suspended immediately for 3 months. If you have a prior violations of DUI, felony DUI, implied consent, or a BAC of .02 or greater in the last 5 years, or the first offense, your driving privilege will immediately be suspended for 6 months. If you refuse to take the test for intoxicants and it is your first offense, you will immediately lose your driving privileges for 6 months. If you have prior violations of DUI, felony DUI, implied consent, or a BAC of .02 or greater in the last 5 years of the first offense, your driving privilege will immediately be suspended over for 1 year. Insurance and financial responsibility. South Carolina's Motor Vehicle Financial Responsibility Law was designed to protect citizens against financially irresponsible drivers who are involved in motor vehicle collisions. SC law requires every owner of a vehicle that is required to be registered in the state to maintain liability insurance, or if qualified, pay $550 for registering as an uninsured vehicle. Insurance requirements. If you choose to insure your vehicle rather than register as an uninsured motor vehicle, you must maintain liability insurance on your vehicle. Liability insurance must remain in effect as long as your car is registered. Your insurance provider must be licensed and authorized to do business in this state. The minimum liability insurance limits in this state are 25-50-25. This limits provide coverage for 1. Injury or death to one person. 2. Injury or death to more than one person. 3. Property damage in any one collision. 4. Uninsured motorist protection. Maintaining proof of insurance. The owner of a motor vehicle must maintain proof of insurance in his motor vehicle at all times. The vehicle owner must be able to provide this proof upon demand of a law enforcement officer. Anyone who fails to maintain proof of insurance on his motor vehicle is guilty of a misdemeanor and may face suspension action by the SC DMV. If action is taken, the owner's driver's license will be suspended and he or she may have to pay $100 reinstatement fee. SR22 insurance. Some suspensions require SC drivers to file SR22 insurance before their driving privileges can be restored. SR22 insurance is proof of financial responsibility for the future. If you are required to file SR22 insurance and you fail to maintain that coverage, your driving and/or registration privileges will be suspended, and you may be required to pay up to $400 in reinstatement fees. Operating an uninsured vehicle. If a law enforcement officer determines that a vehicle you are operating is uninsured and the vehicle has not been registered as uninsured, you will be guilty of a misdemeanor and may face suspension action by the department. If you are both the owner and the operator of the vehicle, your driving and registration privileges will remain suspended until the $550 uninsured motorist fee is paid and SR22 insurance is filed. If you are the driver but not the owner of the vehicle, your driving privileges will be suspended for 30 days and you will be required to pay a $100 reinstatement fee. Registering as an uninsured motor vehicle. If you choose to register your vehicle as an uninsured vehicle, the $550 fee is not an insurance premium, and you are not purchasing any insurance by paying this fee. This uninsured motorist fee is for the privilege to drive and operate an uninsured motor vehicle on South Carolina's roads. Not all drivers will be eligible to register their vehicle as an uninsured vehicle. Contact your local SC DMV office or download the uninsured motorist registration application from DMV B-18 from the SC DMV website at www.scdmvonline.com. To review the requirements you must meet to register as a vehicle as an uninsured motor vehicle. Self-insured vehicles. Some companies or individuals that own at least 26 vehicles may wish to self-insure their vehicles. Anyone wishing to be self-insured must apply with the Financial Responsibility Office for approval. Canceling insurance coverage. It is the responsibility of the vehicle owner to surrender the vehicle license plates and registration certificate or certificates to their local SC DMV office. If liability insurance is not being maintained on their vehicle, if the liability insurance is canceled or there is a lapse of coverage for any reason, your driving and vehicle registration privileges may be suspended and you may have to pay reinstatement fees of up to $400. Verifying insurance coverage for a collision. If you are involved in a collision in South Carolina, you have 15 days to have your insurance company verify insurance coverage on the date of the collision. Failure to do so may result in the suspension of your vehicle registration and driving privileges. Your credentials will remain suspended until you have confirmed that insurance coverage existed at the time of the collision. If the vehicle was not covered with liability insurance at the time of the collision, you may obtain a notarized release from each party receiving bodily injury or property damage and submit it to the Department of Motor Vehicles. You may also enter into an installment agreement with the appropriate parties or deposit acceptable securities in an amount set by the department to satisfy any judgment that may be rendered as a result of the collision. If the department determines that no liability insurance coverage existed at the time of the collision, you may be required to pay the $550 uninsured motorist fee. You may also be required to file SR22 certificate of insurance. If your driver's license is suspended, you may be required to pass the knowledge and skills test before your driving privilege will be reinstated. A reinstatement fee is also required for each driver's license suspension.